Partnership Act. In the previous session, I have explained about the meaning of what a limited liability partnership firm is. It's a hybrid between a partnership firm and a company. Then I have explained about the meaning and as well as the definitions as given under the Act. And we have also known that the limited liability partnership firms will also be taken care of. I mean to say, registration, the general management, and the statutory disclosures will be taken care by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that is MCA, as well as Registrar of Companies. Okay, now we'll verify the salient features, or what are the characteristics or what are the major features of a limited liability partnership firm. So, starting from the beginning, first and foremost, as we have already learned in the previous session, that limited liability partnership firm is now included along with certain class of companies as a body corporate. How do we know that this is incorporated by virtue of Section 2, subsection 1B of LLP Act provides that definitely LLP is a body corporate formed and incorporated under the Act. So definitely LLP is a body corporate. Please highlight this particular point. The second one is perpetual succession. See, yesterday we have discussed about it. LLP, even though there is only one partner left out of all the partners, still that partner continues to be called as a partner of LLP. Usually, death and changes in partners will not affect the existence of an LLP. Okay, it is because why LLP itself is considered as one separate legal entity. So now there are two, right? The partner and LLP. So LLP definitely enjoys perpetual succession because LLP, once it is a separate legal entity, automatically you will take into course saying that it has a perpetual succession. Money continues. Its life will not be affected by death or inclusion of any partners. In case if we have to wind up LLP, then it has to be done as per the provisions of this particular act. So once perpetual succession means automatically you will be knowing it has a separate legal entity. These points are quite similar to what we have learned in Companies Act 2013, right? Even this LLP, definitely it is a separate legal entity, and LLP as a separate entity can be sued upon its liabilities. That is, a case can be filed upon it, and LLP can purchase its property, and LLP can own property, borrow loans, and this thing, just like a company, will be doing it on behalf of its agents, perform all this action on behalf of LLP. So, who are the agents of an LLP? Definitely the partners. So, in other words, because it's a separate legal entity, the creditors of an LLP are creditors of LLP only. Unlike partnership firm, wherein the creditors of a partnership firm are creditors of partners also, in an LLP, it's not like that. In an LLP, the creditors of an LLP are wholly and solely creditors of LLP only. The next one is mutual agency. See, mind you, I was explaining about what an agent is in Sale of Goods Act. Yeah. See, usually even in an LLP, as LLP is different, the partners are considered as agents of LLP. Okay, they enjoy that mutual agency aspect. Only they are liable on account of independent, I mean to say, independent actions. They are not liable on the actions performed by other partners. That means any other partner does something wrong. In case of a partnership, automatically all the partners will be liable. But in case of an LLP, mind you, no partner is liable on account of independent or unauthorized actions of other partners. Usually, individual partners are shielded from joint liability created by another partner's wrong decisions or misconduct. Okay, you underline this in yellow, and the most important part of this definition is given in the next line. In other words, what do you mean? All partners will be agents of LLP alone. No one partner can bind other partners with this act. What do you mean by that? See, usually one partner does something wrong, it has been proved incorrect, it's proved a loss, then the same partner has to bear it. In case of a partnership, all the other partners would also bear the consequences of one single partner's wrongful act. But in case of an LLP, only that partner deals with it. LLP is different, partners are different, and partners are liable only for the acts, I mean to say, the wrongful acts committed by them. No other partner is liable. They are like mutual agents to LLP. Definitely, just like partnership deed, LLP agreement, mutual rights and duties of the partners with an LLP are governed by agreement between the partners. The rights and duties of the partners, definitely they have something called as LLP agreement. This is the constitution. Just like you have articles of association for a company, you have LLP agreement. Partnership deed for a partnership firm, you have an LLP agreement. So, what is the advantage of an agreement? It explains about the management, business, and the governance of an LLP. Moreover, this act provides flexibility to the partners to devise the agreement as per their choice. Okay, fine. The moment the LLP is being incorporated, they definitely have to design this agreement as well. But in case if there is no such agreement, what will happen then? In case if there is no such agreement, then these mutual rights and duties shall be governed by provisions of LLP Act. That is very important. In case if no such agreement had been given, then the duties and powers will be, are to be construed as per the provisions of this LLP Act. Yes, we have a separate uh, I mean to say, in the Act, we have a separate schedule for it. Based on that schedule, these rights and duties will be decided by this schedule in case if there is no partnership deed. Definitely, once it is a separate legal entity, LLP is an artificial legal person. Why? It has been created as per law. Which law? You have we file all the documents with registrar of companies, then an incorporation certificate is given, and it's a legal process, right? And it has been come into being as per LLP Act. So obviously it is a legal person because it is created by legal process, and definitely it can be, it can purchase property, sell property, enter into agreements. But yeah, it's an artificial person. Who will do on behalf of LLP? As I told you, mutual agency, the partners. The partners on behalf of LLP will be indulging in all these activities. See, an LLP, as I told you, like energy is invisible, intangible, and immortal. Okay, but definitely an LLP will do all the other things other than what it cannot be sent to jail. In case of something, there is some wrongdoing in an LLP, definitely the partners of an LLP will be sent to jail. It cannot take an oath. Obviously, it's come into being because of a legal process. So definitely an LLP is invisible, intangible, immortal, but not fictitious. Most important. Just like goodwill, it's very much present. Energy is very much present. But you can't call, because you can't see energy, you can't call it fictitious because it is present. Then we'll talk about common seal, just like company, because LLP is an association of persons, definitely, and it's a separate legal entity, they can enforce documents under a common seal. But in case if they don't want, then they need not do. Just like companies act also have come out with an option of not having an company seal. Similarly, if LLP wants to have a common seal, then they can have it. Otherwise, they need not have any particular common seal. So it is not mandatory for an LLP to have a common seal. But if it wants, they can have a common seal and it shall remain under custody of a responsible official and it shall be affixed in the presence of at least two designated partners of LLP. Definitely, the liability, as we have been taking up from the very beginning of the class, every partner of LLP is for the purpose of business of LLP, the agent of LLP, but not for other partners. He is not a mutual agent. Okay, he is not a mutual agent. He is only an agent of LLP. The wrongdoings of other partners, you cannot blame the, the partner. He is working only for LLP, not about other partners. Yeah. The next one is management of the business. Usually, the partners in the LLP are entitled to manage business of LLP, but only the designated partners are responsible for legal compliances. Just now, while I was talking about the definition designated partners, mind you, we have spoken about it as per Section 7, right, of LLP Act. Mani, these partners will be responsible. They are the agents who will be going to the prison or who will be acting or who will be the main management of an LLP. So usually partners are entitled to manage the business, but only the legal compliances. Whatever legal compliances are there, these designated partners are supposed to take care. Like what? Like filing of returns with ROC or filing of a particular change in address or a change in the business of the company. All these details have to be filed upon. Give various notices in MCA and so on. These will be designed only by designated partners, and in case if there is any legal compliance, like in case if any judgment had come against LLP is supposed to because LLP had been considered as guilty and one of the partners, designated partners, will go into the prison. So usually everybody can manage business, but designated partners are only supposed to bear the legal compliances. Just like private limited company, maximum number of members in a private limited company is 200, but here in LLP there's no maximum limit, but the minimum limit for the members in an LLP is 2 members. The minimum number of members in an LLP is 2 members and there's no maximum limit. And this business is only for carrying profit. A lawful business with the view to carry profit is essential for an LLP. For an LLP, the most important thing is they have to carry a lawful business with a view to earn profit. Investigation, yes, the central government has powers to investigate into the affairs of an LLP. In case if any person has a doubt with the affairs of the LLP or running of the business by an LLP, if he suspects any fraud in an LLP, then he can make an application to central government and the central government can order to investigate the affairs. This particular point is very important. They can ask you either in multiple choice questions as well. See, usually they don't ask you all the characteristics. You have to know the design of an LLP. Okay. See, most of the characteristics are quite similar to what you see in Companies Act. That is body corporate, perpetual succession, separate legal agent, entity, mutual agency, and artificial legal person, common seal. All these 5 to 6 points, limited liability, all these are equal to that of a company. The other parts, which are quite, quite I can say customized to LLP, are hardly 2 or 3 points. That is LLP agreement, and I suppose designated partners, management of business, and then we'll talk about the next page being compromise or arrangement. Yeah, definitely in case of a merger or an amalgamation, one LLP can merge into an LLP, or two LLPs can come together and form one big LLP. Or sometimes they might be having certain feuds or fights with other LLPs for which they might settle into a compromise. All these things are under the provisions of LLP Act. So LLPs can only existing partnership firms or new association of people be allowed to form an LLP? No. Even a private company, as we have studied in the definitions in the previous class, even a private company or an unlisted public company would also be allowed to be converted into an LLP. Okay, please note down these points. Converted which one? Private company as well as unlisted public company. Then e-filing of documents. Usually for LLPs now they need not go manually. The partners or their workers or management, they need not go personally and then file the returns. Here whatever returns, see, returns is to ensure transparency in a business. So in case of an LLP as well, to ensure transparency in business, they have to file returns periodically. So these returns, unlike the previous manual method of going and delivering it in the office, these returns, that is the balance sheets and the financial statements and other statements, they can be filed directly online through the website called as www.mca.gov.in. That is, MCA is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. As we have discussed earlier, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs also looks into the operations of an LLP as well. So e-filing of documents is available for LLP, and obviously signatures. How can it be authenticated and validated? Obviously with the digital signature of the designated partner. Just now I told you the Bakara is the designated partner. All the legal compliances have to be verified by these designated partner. The next characteristic is quite a simple one. Foreign LLPs are those LLPs which have been formed or incorporated or registered outside India. So these are the major characteristics. Out of which major 10 to 12 characteristics are quite similar to that of a company. The other ones being a compromise arrangement, e-filing of documents, and then management of business, investigation. They are more customized to LLP. I want you to learn all these characteristics. They won't ask you to write the characteristics as one big answer in the examination, but definitely they can ask about a characteristic either as a case study or a true or false. Okay, so what are the major advantages? This can be asked for a 5 marks question. What are the major advantages? Which we have already discussed in the previous session. Definitely, I'll say it has the advantages of both company and partnership act. Instead of looking directly into the system, first tell me what is the biggest advantage? Limited liability. Partners enjoy limited liability. And formalities are very less when compared to that of a company. While legal formalities and procedural requirements of an LLP is more flexible, and this one doesn't need to have complicated documents like memorandum of association or articles of an association. It can be formed based on an agreement. And here, as a company, you don't have a fixed capital structure saying that only authorized amount authorized only can be issued as capital. Here, as per the agreement, they have a flexible capital structure. If they want to introduce more capital, all they have to do is just change the agreement and file with MCA, file in MCA's website. Or in case if they want to say, if they don't want to write, they can say the capital requirements may change from time to time. Most important, it's ease of doing business. That's what the government is concentrating on, the ease of doing business. Yeah, LLP or one person company had come into being so as to promote this concept of ease of doing business. Definitely, it is comparatively easier to dissolve than that of a company. Owing by my, as per my suggestion, I suggest you can put it in this chronology. That is what the most important being limited liability, easy to form, it provides flexibility without imposing detailed legal and procedural requirements, flexible corporate capital structure, and it is organized and it operates based on an agreement, and definitely LLP is easier to dissolve. Now let us study as to how an LLP can be incorporated. In the previous sessions, Companies Act, I said you have to frame certain documents or make certain documents along with MOA, AOA, then file with registrar. Registrar verifies the details and then gives a certificate of incorporation. In case of an LLP also, an association or group of people, that is what is the minimum number of people required to form an LLP? Two people. Yeah, they can go and file a particular statement with ROC. Stating about what? Stating about name, address, business, whatever they want to do, and then they have to pay the fees. Then ROC will give them a certificate. Now we'll discuss in detail as to how this has to be filed. All the definitions have been, see, the chronology he had given is the breakup of a definition. Don't get confused. It's the breakup of a definition so that you can understand it easily. As to how an LLP is to be incorporated is provided in section 11. Okay, so as per section 11, first, what should have first two or more persons associated for carrying on lawful business with a view to profit shall subscribe their names to an incorporation document. First and foremost, two or more persons, they should come together and then make one document called as incorporation document. There is a particular format for that. Based on that particular format, these people should come together and then they have to sign. Subscribe here means sign to be the partners of an LLP. Subscribe to that incorporation document. Once this document is made, it should be filed with whom? Definitely it should be filed with ROC. Okay, the state or the particular state in which this particular organization is located. The incorporation document should be filed in such a manner and with such fees as may be prescribed with the registrar of state in which the registered office of LLP is situated. Mind you, first note down the main points. First thing is what? They have to first bring out a document. Okay, they have to first bring out a document called as incorporation document. And this document should be signed by two people, minimum two people or more people. They are called as subscribers to the incorporation document. Now, with this document, they have to go to ROC and file with the ROC. What do you mean by filing? Filing means giving it to the ROC for further verification and validation. Once it is given to the ROC, then the ROC will collect certain fees, right? Nobody does it for free. So then ROC will collect certain fees from these people. And then, do you think it is completed? No. Along with this incorporation document, there should be another statement which should be filed. That should be filed in what format? In a prescribed format. And this document, this is a formatted version. Let me tell you, along with incorporation document, there will be one particular formatted statement which will be given by ROC to these partners. So these partners will fill up this prescribed formatted version and then get it signed. Get it signed. Usually they say prepared by chartered accountant, but these people usually prepare it and then they get it signed by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, and one of these partners who have subscribed to the incorporation document, and saying what in this document they have to, or in this statement they have to clearly state that the requirements of this act or rules thereunder have been complied with, and with regard to incorporations, all the matters, pre-incorporation matters as well as post-incorporation or incidental money matters which arise at the time of incorporating of an LLP have been legally complied with. What do you mean by this particular point? The first point, incorporation document. I said incorporation document in a formatted version containing all the details of an LLP will be filed with registrar and fees will be paid. Along with it, another statement, a second statement, which is verified by the chartered accountant or a cost accountant and signed by them, stating now another statement, the second statement signed by them, stating what? Stating that the requirements of the act, that is LLP Act, it can be anything with regard to the qualification of the partners, the designated partners, they stating that they stating about their adequacy to serve as a partner. All these things will be mentioned in this second format. And this format, this declaration has to be verified by a chartered accountant or cost accountant, and they also have to state that this is being done with a legal intention to conduct a legal business. Okay, this is the second statement to be filed, and this is given as per section 11 subsection C. All these A, B, C is not something which is given in your study material. They are 11 subsection A, 11 subsection B and 11 subsection C of the Limited Liability Partnership Act. Yeah, hope I'm clear. I want you to underline this also. I'm just changing the highlighted part so that there will not be any confusion. The first one is the incorporation document. Money document consisting about the details of an LLP. The second document is with regard to an declaration which is certified by a chartered accountant, stating that all the matters which are incidental or matters related to pre-incorporation or precedent to this incorporation of LLP have been complied with. So now we'll talk about the incorporation document. That is the first document which has been given in 11 subsection A. So what should the incorporation document consist of? Here also I am highlighting it in a different color because this can be asked as a separate question and it's quite important. So incorporation document, you can just use your common sense. What will be there? Yeah, just now I told you I'll use green over here. Definitely it should be in the form prescribed, the name of the LLP, the business of the LLP, the address of the registered office of the LLP, the names and addresses of each persons who are to be the partners of the LLP, and then who are the designated partners, the main bakaras of LLP. Bakaras in the sense I have just used it in a comic sense. Please don't take it seriously. Mani, the people who are actually entitled to be the people responsible or the partners responsible for compliance with legal matters of an LLP are called as designated partners. So incorporation document means what? It consists, it should be in a format given by this act, that is LLP Act, stating what? Name, address, business, objectives and partners, who are the designated partners and any other information. And this document should be filed with whom? With ROC after payment of the fees. Then once that is done, what will happen? Another statement stating declaration saying that these people are very well qualified and they have complied with all the matters which are precedent and incidental thereto. These are the two documents which have to be filed with ROC. And in case if any person, the third point, that is the third section tells you about the penalty or the punishment for not following up these provisions. In case if any person has made a statement knowing to be false or does not believe it to be true, then obviously what will they do? They have to punish that person. How will they punish that person? They will imprison him. Money, they'll put him in jail for 2 years and they might put up a fine which is not less than 10,000 rupees but might extend up till 5 lakh rupees. Now we'll go to section 12 which will talk about incorporation by registration. Once all these things, these two documents have been filed, what is clauses B and C? B and C is incorporation document should be filed with such manner. Incorporation document consists of what? Name, address of an LLP. And C is what? Clause C is what? there should be another statement signed by the chartered accountant, that is declaration saying that all the legal provisions have been complied with. These two documents should be filed with registrar. In case the requirement imposed by clause A of that subsection has been not complied with, he shall within, in case, if the, see, this is just a way of making the definition more inclusive. Or in case if these two documents are given, then the registrar has to make a registration. In case if the first document is not given, then he is not supposed to make a definition. That's what this particular point unless means. Unless means what? All these two documents are mandatory. If they are not given, then definitely he's not supposed to do the registration. Then definitely within a period of 14 days, what should the registrar do? He should register the incorporation document. He should register the incorporation document and give a certificate that the LLP is incorporated by the name given by them. Name specified. Therein means in it. Therein means in that particular document. What should this person do? Register the incorporation document and give a certificate that the LLP is incorporated by the name specified therein. Within how many days? Within 14 days of filing up the document. Am I clear? Within 14 days of filing up the document. The registrar may accept the statement delivered under clause C subsection 1 of section 11 as sufficient evidence that the requirement imposed by clause A. Clause A is what? Incorporation document. Clause C is what? Document signed by chartered accountant. See, usually registrar need not additionally verify the details of a chart. See, a person comes, two people come and say we are X and Y, we want to start a textile business. Now, as to whether these people name as the persons who have come to ROC as X and Y, the identity proof and all, the registrar may not verify it again. He can definitely take the chartered accountant certificate as final. That's the power a chartered accountant certificate has. That's what the second point tells you. The registrar might take the chartered accountant certificate. What is there in 11 subsection 1 clause C is the chartered accountants or the cost accountant certificate stating that these people are bona fide. Money, they are true. That person is only X, is not some A, B, or C. He is X and his intention is to do a lawful business. So that certificate is final for verification of ID and address of the partners and designated partners. The next one is the certificate issued under clause B of subsection 1 shall be signed by the registrar and authenticated by his official seal. What is that? Incorporated document. Incorporated document, once it is done, definitely it will be signed by the registrar and is authenticated by his official seal. Once the certificate of registration has come, what does it mean? It's conclusive evidence that registry LLP has come into being with all the features of what? Separate legal entity and limited liability and enjoying the status of an artificial judiciary person. So now it can enter into contracts, do whatever it wants, enter into contracts, do business. And who are the agents of an LLP? Definitely its partners. So registered office of an LLP. Just now we have discussed, but again he has given it. Let me again explain it to you. So definitely LLP in its incorporation document, it will mention as registered office. Registered office means what? The head office of an LLP, wherein all communications, in case if an ROC wants to send any communication or any gazette or any official correspondence, then it will reach the registered office. Then the partners of LLP should not say we have not received, we are working in a branch office. Registered office is made so that all the required communications and notices may be addressed. So a document may be served on an LLP or a partner, yeah, and this the document may be sent by post, and this document will be sent where? Only at the registered office Or other than registered office, if LLP says correspondence address, man is saying that let's say they are working in some factory which is located in somewhere in a jungle, then in that case the correspondence address would be different, registered office address would be different. In case of correspondence address is given by LLP, then the document will be served only on the correspondent address. That's what, in simple terms, every LLP should have an registered office. And in case if anybody wants to send any communication to LLP, then they have to send it to what, either to the registered office or any other address specifically declared by the LLP for the purpose, in for this purpose. Okay, this can be asked as short answers. You can just go through it once. That's why I have underlined these 2 points only in red. So definitely an LLP may change the, so after some days the LLP wishes to change its registered office. Can it do so? Yes, very much the LLP can change its registered office. And how does it change? Again, go to registrar, fill up the form designated for that. Yeah, and then pay the fees, and accordingly the registered office address will be changed in the books of registrar as well. Definitely an LLP may change the place of its registered office and file the notice of such change with the registrar in such form and such manner. Okay, so LLP may change the place of its no office and file the notice of change with the registrar. Okay. So as of now, what did you know? The process of incorporation, two documents are required. With regard to, then we have spoken about as to when the registrar will give a certificate of incorporation. When does he give? Within 14 days of submitting the documents. Then we have spoken about the address of an LLP. Yeah, they have to give a designated address. In case if they have changed the address, then automatically that also has to be filed with the registrar and a subsequent fees has to be paid. There might be some partners who will say, see, I'll not, who the hell is ROC, who the hell is MCA, I'm not going to follow these conditions. Then what will happen? Punishment, a very big punishment will be given. So what is the punishment or the penalty? Fine, which will range anywhere between 2000 rupees and extend up to 25,000 rupees. In case if any of these conditions have been contravened, then definitely the partners will be punishable with a fine ranging not less than 2000 rupees and extending up to 25,000 rupees. So once on registration, what will the, what is LLP eligible to do? Definitely, it can purchase, sell, buy, acquire, hold property which is either tangible, movable, intangible, immovable, anything. It can do that. It can have a common seal, and uh, it can definitely undertake acts as body corporates, just like companies. Most it can take up or undertake businesses which most of the companies can do, and it also has the primary right of suing or being sued, money filing a case against others or filing a case by others on itself. In short, it does all the things as a regular person other than going to jail or personally being present in the church. So this is the case with regard to limited liability partnership. Once it has been registered as a limited liability partnership firm, the most important thing is there should be this limited liability partnership firm, just like a company, it should have the words limited liability partnership at the end of its name. XYZ limited liability partnership. And no LLP. This is one point, this is simple, which you have known. Now comes the main fun in this particular section 15. What is it? No LLP. No LLP should be registered by a name which, in the opinion of the central government, is undesirable. Like they can't say, we hate India. That is an undesirable name. I'm just saying nowadays so much of tensions. In case if somebody talks anything against uh, something which hurts the which hurts a lot of people, a particular community, or a people, or any other aspect. In such situations, in case if they write a name, just now I told you a very kind of rather than controversial and unthinkable name like this, then automatically central government will definitely see to it that it is not registered. They cannot use all kinds of nonsensical names, and at the same time, the name should not match with another company. Like I can't name my chartered accountant firm as PricewaterhouseCoopers again. I should think of another name which is non existent. So, definitely no LLP should be registered by a name which, in the opinion of the central government, is undesirable or identical or too nearly resembles to that of other partnership firm or LLP or other body corporate. Here, the second part I wish to highlight, identical or too nearly resembles to that of other partnership firm or LLP. It should be an I can call it as, it should be an its own name and its own status. So first, so how will an LLP know about it? It has filled up an incorporation document. How does it know that its name does not correlate with other LLPs, or its name is not identical to other LLPs? For that, they have an option called as reservation of name, which is given as per section 16. What is it? We'll just see. A person may apply in such form and manner and accompanied by such fee as may be prescribed to the registrar for reservation of a name. When does it happen, madam? When does this reservation of a name happen? Reservation of a name happens at the beginning, at the very, very beginning before incorporation. So usually what does a person do? He applies in a first only, this is only for reservation of a name. For that also they have a format in Ministry of Corporate Affairs. They pay certain fees, and now I want to name my company as Lakshmi Padma Priya LLP Chartered Accountant. So I type my name over there. Okay. What is the name of the proposed LLP and the name to which LLP proposes? In case if they want to change the existing name, now instead of Lakshmi Padma Priya, I also want to add the name of Lakshmi Padma Priya and Shri Yuta. Okay, so in that case also, I have to definitely go for verifying whether these kind of these LLPs with an identical name do not exist. So what I do, I shall first apply for this name in a specific format suggested by prescribed by the registrar. After receipt of the application and after payment of the fees, now the registrar checks up with his records and he sees whether these names are not against or not in contravention with the rules of the central government. Then he will reserve one of those names. Mane, first before incorporation, I have to file an application, say verify whether the name which I wish to name my LLP is available or not. The registrar will check up and then he will say, yes, this name is not available. You can go ahead with incorporation procedures. Then I'll go around with incorporation procedures. This is given in section 16. So, what simple thing? Filing this is the first and foremost, it's a form, and then filing it with the registrar checking up, seeing that it is not in contravention with any other provisions, then allotting that particular name. Then we'll talk about change of name of LLP. Can we change this name of LLP? Whether central government comes into being? Okay. Notwithstanding means not with regard to anything that has been contained in section 15 and 16. In case if the central government is satisfied that an LLP has been registered, whether through inadvertentements without any prior thought. Inadvertently means they have not thought that something is bound to happen, like something is, uh, their prior intention was not mischief. But later on, that particular name had become a source of mischief. then in that situation, whether originally, uh, then in that situation, the central government themselves may direct LLP to change its name. Let's say initially, I'm unable to give an example. Let's say previously the particular name, uh, let us say there was this particular name, LLP had been registered with the name uh, Beautiful and Co. Okay, Beautiful LLP. Beautiful LLP. But now everybody, now let us, I'm just taking it in a kind of irrational manner so that you can understand it. I can call it as in an hypothetical manner, something which is not true. An LLP has been registered with the name Beautiful LLP. Then let us say some people have come into being, some activists have come into being, and they felt beautiful was racist. They felt it should be Beautiful and Handsome LLP. So now they want to change the name. So central government now asked the LLP to change the name. See, this will not happen. I'm just giving it to you as an example. So this is given in section 17. What it says, section 17 tells you that if central government feels that the name of the LLP is very much identical or near, or it resembles the name of any LLP or other board corporate, or the name has to be likely to be mistaken for it, then it will ask the LLP to change its name. Other than this, definitely in case if they feel like, if my LLP's name is Price House and Co. Price House LLP, then it is quite similar to PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP. In that case also, definitely central government will ask me to change the name of my LLP. So this is what in case change of name of LLP by central government. Section 16 talks about registering, I mean to say reserving a name of LLP. And in case if they don't follow the directions, again we come up with punishments. What are the punishments? Fine up till 10,000, which might extend up till 5 lakh rupees, or 10,000, which might designated for LLP. Just now we have known that LLP is different, designated partner is different. So LLP, the fine might begin from 10,000 rupees and extend up till 5 lakh rupees, and designated partner, again the fine will be 10,000 rupees and it might extend up till 1 lakh rupees. So the first and foremost, while just now he has given in a mind map over here immediately after this, what is that? The first and foremost step for registering and or incorporating an LLP is what? First, reservation of its name. Then again it has to file E-form and see E-form 1 to verify whether the name is available or not. Then the applicant has to file E-form 2. This is incorporation document for forming this limited liability partnership firm. The C form 2 should consist of all the details of incorporation, like names of the partners, details of the partners, and then again along with this another chartered accountant certificate. And once this is done, within 14 days, the registrar of LLPs will issue the incorporation document. And once the LLP has been incorporated, then uh, once the LLP is incorporated, then a certificate of incorporation shall be given to the LLP. And now the most important thing is LLP agreement has to be stipulated or it has to be executed. It has to be made immediately after incorporation as per section 23, and this LLP agreement is to be filed in E-form 3. E-form 1 is what? Checking for the name. E-form 2 is what? For incorporation. That is two documents, incorporation documents and chartered accountant certificate. E-form 3 is what? It's mandatory. Mandatory means compulsory. Mandatory for filing what? Filing LLP agreement, that is the partnership deed, the agreement between the partners for sharing of profits or contributing of capital or running the business and management and so on. Hope I am clear with the incorporation of LLP. Now we'll go to the last topic for today, that is partners and their relations. So who are eligible to be the partners of an LLP? Definitely, once on incorporation of the LLP, the persons who subscribe their names to the incorporation document, just like company, the people who have subscribed their names to the incorporation document shall be the partners, and any other person may become partner subsequently. And how will he become the partner? As given as per the LLP agreement. So this details about the partners has been given in section 22 of an LLP Act. What does it state? So anybody who has signed on that incorporation document, subscribed means signed and had declared himself to be the partner of an LLP, then that person definitely is eligible to be the partner of an LLP. Okay, now we'll discuss about the relationship among the partners. See, as I told you, again these points will get repeated with regard to limited liability. See, unlike partnership firm wherein the act of one partner binds the other partners, in case of an LLP, any wrongful act done by other partner does not bind either the LLP or the other partner. See, there are A, B, C in an LLP. C has done something wrong. So A and B are not bound by the acts done by C. But in case if LLP has done something fraudulent, then definitely A, B and C are, because they are the partners. So LLP, they only have done it. So they'll be bound by it. So what is the relationship of partners? The mutual rights and duties of the partners of the LLP and mutual rights and duties of LLP and partners. This will be the term which will be used quite frequently. The mutual rights and duties of the partners of an LLP and LLP and partners, partners and LLP in simple terms, shall be gone by what? Shall be gone by the LLP agreement within the partners or between the LLP and its partners. So first and foremost, what is it? It shall be governed by LLP agreement. In case if there is any changes, as always, it should be filed with whom? Changes, any changes in LLP agreement, it should be filed with the registrar in the format given by the registrar in such form and manner, definitely, and fees has to be paid. Anything, any change in name, address, or any change in the objectives, any company or LLP or company or LLP, first thing you go to the registrar, they'll give you a format, then you have to fill up the format, pay the fees, and automatically, not automatically, then the registrar will change the details in his record. In case, okay, if there is an agreement even before incorporation of an LLP, and as per the agreement, the partners have done such act, then that act holds good, provided provided the agreement deed or the LLP agreement says that the initial agreement also holds good. What do you mean by that? See, there are three people, A, B, and C. They have come into an agreement to form an LLP. See, they haven't formed yet. They made an agreement to form an LLP and they have written about all the duties, all the aspects as to how an LLP has to be run in one agreement. After forming this agreement, they have gone and have incorporated an LLP. Now, can they, and after incorporation of LLP means they'll be having an LLP agreement as well. So, out of these LLP, the first LLP agreement before incorporation or the post agreement, which one holds good? This point says if the post agreement deed says that the first agreement can also be taken into consideration or the points given in first agreement holds good, then whatever actions have been done in accordance with the first executed agreement, they will also hold good. Hope you have understood this point. Money in case ratified means in case any agreement had been executed by the partners before incorporation of an LLP and in case they have done and before who subscribed and in case this agreement imposes obligations means certain rules and conditions. then these rules and conditions can be followed even by the LLP provided the LLP agreement says so. Hope you're clear with it. In the absence of the agreement as to any matter, see they have executed an agreement, but some matters have not been touched upon. In that case, the rights and duties will be dealt as given in by LLP Act first schedule. Okay. Just now we have seen that agreement is mandatory. Okay, LLP agreement had been executed. But thing is what some items out of far sight or out of I can call it as error have been not discussed. In such situations, what should these partners in LLP consult? The first schedule of LLP Act. All the 4 points are very, very important. I want you to memorize them clearly. Then comes cessation of partnership interest. Cessation means what? Cancellation. Please note down the meaning of that particular term. What do you mean by the term cessation? Cessation means a cancellation. Definitely, when will a partner cease to be a partner? See, in case if a partner does not want to continue as a partner, what is he supposed to do? He definitely has to follow the procedure as given in the agreement deed. That is LLP agreement. In case if no such details are given in this LLP agreement, then definitely he has to, if he wants to come out of this LLP, then he has to give a notice in writing. Money before 30 days before leaving, he has to say, I wish to leave this LLP. So, in case if somebody wants to cease to be a partner, what are the main points? Please recollect. The first main point is he has to retire or resign in accordance with the agreement with other partners. In case if there is no agreement, then he has to retire or cease to be a partner by giving a notice in writing of not less than 30 days, within not less than 30 days, saying that he wants to cease to be a partner. So, when will a person cease to be a partner of an LLP? Along with this, definitely, as we have learned in Partnership Act, on his death, in case of an unsound mind, or if he has been adjudged, judged as insolvent or declared as insolvent, then automatically he will cease to become a partner of an LLP. One is on his own accord, the other one is outside accord. That is what death, insolvency, and unsound the mind. Then, in case if a person has ceased to be a partner of an LLP, is he liable for the actions done by an LLP? Usually, he is not liable. Yeah, in partnership, we have been discussing about that 6 months notice. The partners have to give notice. Otherwise, he becomes liable. The former partner is to be regarded as still being partner of the LLP. In case if he has not given what? If the person has noticed that the former partner has ceased to be the partner of LLP, or the notice that the former partner has ceased to be a partner of LLP has been delivered to the registrar. What do you mean by that? See, a person is no more a partner of an LLP. But can we consider him as a partner of an LLP? We can consider him as a partner of an LLP when the person has noticed. Here the person means the person doing the business with LLP or the partner, stating that he has noticed that the former partner has ceased to be a partner of LLP, or noticed that the former partner has ceased to be a partner of LLP has been delivered to the registrar. What do you mean by that? See, there's a third party which wants to do business with the firm, but one of the partners have resigned. In case one of the partners of that LLP had resigned, the person who is doing the business with the firm has knowledge that the former partner has ceased to be a partner, then the outgoing partner is not liable. If the person who does the business or who makes the LLP liable has a notice stating that, say, C is going out as a partner, or he has a notice that C has resigned and that resignation is filed with the registrar, then C is not liable to the act. But in case if he does not have any notice, he does not have any notice stating that C has not he has not resigned from the company, or C has resigned but he doesn't have a notice that C has resigned, then in such case, definitely there is a possibility he can still be considered as a partner. That's what this particular point says. See, a person has ceased to be a partner of LLP. Then this former partner is to be regarded as still being a partner of the LLP. He'll be regarded as a partner of the LLP if the person has noticed, unless the person has noticed that the former partner has ceased to be a partner of LLP. And here, person means what? Person dealing with LLP. So the former partners have to be even more careful. In case if the person does not have the notice dealing with LLP, then automatically he will be considered liable. So the outgoing partner, before retiring, he should be very, very careful. He should explain to all his creditors and the other people dealing with the LLP, saying that he is no more a partner. In case if they feel that he is a partner and they do the business with LLP, then automatically this person will become liable. So be very careful. It's a tricky one. It can be asked in true or false. So that's why do we say we have to verify the documents with registrar, so as to verify these subtle aspects. The cessation of the partner from the LLP does not by itself discharge the partner from any obligation to the LLP or to the other partners or to any person. Here, any other person means the liability which he has incurred on account of any other person which he is being the partner. Just mere cessation, mere resignation from an LLP does not just immediately relieve him from any obligation to the LLP. Okay, did you get it? That's why I'm saying once he resigns, he has to give notice to everybody who is dealing business with LLP. Where a partner of LLP ceases to be a partner, otherwise provided in LLP agreement, the former partner or a person entitled to his share in consequence of the death or insolvency of the former partner, that is in case of an insolvency or in case of a death of a partner, then this ex-partner is entitled to receive from the LLP. So the moment he ceases from the LLP or who discontinues to be a partner of LLP, then will he have a share in his capital? Will he get his capital? Will he get back his capital contributed? Yes, he'll get back his capital and he'll get his share of surplus from the profits after deduction of accumulated profits. Money in case of death or insolvency of a partner. Insolvency means the official liquidator, or in case of a death of a partner, the legal representative. They'll get what? An amount equal to the capital contribution, and the next one is his right to share in the accumulated profits. Hope I am clear. A former partner or a person entitled to his share in consequence of the death or insolvency of the former partner shall not have right to interfere in the management of the LLP. Definitely, once the partner goes out, he now cannot poke his nose in the management of the LLP. A former partner or a person entitled to means the legal representative or an official liquidator now cannot come and start participating in the affairs of LLP. Now, if in case if any partner has changed or resigned, or in case if he has changed his address or name, what are the provisions affecting the LLP? As per LLP Act, will be discussing that. In case if there is any change in the name of the partners, or in case if the partner has shifted his house, then in case of there is any change in the name or address, then this particular partner definitely within a period of 15 days shall intimate the LLP about that change. Why? Because he is the agent. So definitely. Once a partner ceases to, once a person becomes or ceases to be a partner, then what should the LLP do? File a notice with the registrar. As always, definitely anything, any change in a company or an LLP, whatever changes are there, they have to file a notice with the registrar within 30 days. In case if there is a change, same thing goes with a change in the name or address of a partner as well. They have to file a notice with the registrar within 30 days of such change. So whenever I say notice, how should this notice be? In the form and in such form, and should be accompanied by fees as may be prescribed. It should be signed by the designated partner of the LLP. And in case if it is an incoming partner, it shall contain a statement by that incoming partner that he wants to be a partner, and all these should be signed. In case if there is change in the partners also, what within 30 days in a prescribed format, the LLP, money, the designated partner, should give the details of the change to the registrar and file it with the registrar. And in case if it is a new partner, in case if a new partner is coming, a new partner should also give a statement that he has been induced into the LLP without any coercion or undue influence, and he wishes to be in his good senses, he wishes to continue as a partner of an LLP. In case if there is a change in an LLP, take it name, address, or partners, and if it has not been intimated to the registrar, what will happen? As I said, penalty and punishment. So, what would be the fine and punishment? I'm not highlighting it, you can just go through it. In case of the provision with regard to name means 2000 rupees to 25,000 rupees. In case if there is a particular resignation of a partner and they are not resignation or change in a partner or inclusion of a partner, in case if they have not intimated, then the fine might extend between 2000 rupees and not and it can go up to 25,000 rupees. Now comes a change. A person does not want to be a partner of an LLP. He had communicated these details with all the other partners. Now he feels that the other partners or the designated partners will not give notice to the LLP with regard to his resignation. Then this partner, the former partner or the outgoing partner, may himself file with the registrar the notice referred to in subsection 3, that is stating his resignation with the registrar. And what will the registrar do? First, he will obtain this confirmation from the other partners and then he will file it. In case of no confirmation is not given by LLP, I want you to underline this as well. And in case of no confirmation has been given by the LLP, then what will the registrar do? Then definitely he will follow. The registrar shall register the notice made by the person ceasing to be a partner. He will take it for granted that the partner has retired. When in case if he does not receive any kind of notice from the LLP. Okay, I'll close the session with this topic. Then I'll be talking about extent and limitation of liability of LLP and a partner in the next session. Hope you have understood the class. In case of any doubts, please let me know. Thank you.